I think human rights are always thought were the rights that individuals have. A human in that sense too, and also in the sense that they are what people have a right to by the nature of their birth. It's the kind of thing you get when you're born. You have rights. Most of the time, people are really not conscious of the fact that they have so many rights: a right to education, a right to life, a right to liberty, a right to expression of views, a right to profess a religion that they like. They just assume some of those things. But I think it's important to underline the fact that the rights are against something else. And that is the state. The state has to guarantee those rights. So I see human rights as something which comes inherently to you by your very nature of being a human being. And that the right has to be exercised for you by the state, and if it does not, then it violates the right. So you have a right to protest, a right to speak up, a right to ask for it.
Human rights are the basic set of entitlements that underpin a democracy in any society. They are what provides a citizen with empowerment, which provides them with the facilities to be able to realize their full potential in a society, and therefore they're absolutely necessary and fundamental to essential freedom.
There are many traditional interpretations of human rights, but what I feel is, as a human being, you are entitled to legally recognized rights with corresponding duties on the state. So those are my interpretations of human rights. So there are, to me, I see all types of rights equally important, and I do believe in universality of human rights and interdependency of human rights. So there's nothing called lesser important human rights or more important human rights. All are equally important human rights.
The French Revolution had the slogan liberty, equality and fraternity. So I would say broadly, my understanding of human rights is based on those three concepts, which I think are interlinked and both at the heart of human rights.
They are the most basic and fundamental freedoms due to human beings. In a Sri Lankan context, these are rights both guaranteed by the Constitution and those that are due to the citizens of this country and even outsiders as a part of the huge value system that has come up both in terms of our heritage and also in terms of the kind of post-independent rights and the enshrinement of rights which has taken place through laws and policies.
The present status need to be understood with the ending of the war, and immediately preceding the last phase of war needs to be taken into account, and we have seen that particular period as probably one of the darkest periods in Sri Lanka's human rights record, because even very fundamental, very well recognized fundamental rights such as freedom of expression and right to life was very much threatened, and those have been reflected by the fact that even the journalists or anyone else were not spared with it. That person has dissenting views, that means views that are not consistent with the government's views on the war. And we need to also realize that human rights are operated in Sri Lanka in a bit of a corrupt and unaccountable system. It's not only the president who is not unaccountable. I think virtually the whole state sector is unaccountable. We have seen the public sector completely politicized with the non-implementation of the 17th Amendment. There are larger issues like that. I think we have also seen that the public institutions have become completely weak, and also they are virtually run by a set of stooges. And Sri Lanka is a country where there are a lot of potential good people, talented people. Now those people have never been given an opportunity to shoulder the responsibilities of governance. So in that context, we basically look at the immediately preceding period to the final phase of war as one of the darkest. Now, did I mean that, what is then the position after the war? I mean, we had a lot of expectation. I am sure people on the street also had a lot of expectations that the things will improve. When I say things will improve, it's not only the northern east. I think as a whole, people were expecting better governance, people were expecting accountability, people were expecting transparent systems, people were expecting resumption of at least the rights that have been enjoyed by Sri Lanka. But there are no signs of any of these things seriously happening. What we see instead is the same type of governance continuing with a different phase. So my conclusion in short is that the human rights situation has not much improved, certainly not improved to the expectation of people like us.
In the present context of Sri Lanka, the current situation of human rights is really quite appalling insofar as basic freedoms are under threat. The entire mechanism for the protection of human rights badly needs to be strengthened and fortified if the challenges of the future are to be met. Furthermore, it is precisely because of the lapses in the human rights protection system that we have conflict in this country, and we are at risk of reproducing and sustaining that conflict into the future unless human rights protection is strengthened.
Yes, I think it's a situation of people wanting to express the rights that they have, and of governments, not only this government, but all governments, trying to be a little limiting in the giving of those rights and finding reasons why the full rights cannot be given. The right to justice. I mean, you are provided with institutions which should give you that right, but the enormous delays, that expense, all kinds of things which impede, constrain the exercise of the right. Right to education. Everybody has a right to a full and good education. But the right of education that people get, dependent on the money they pay, dependent on where they live, might find that people in some part of the country don't have that right at all. So rights are exercised or given to people in a very limited way.
We have traditionally been regarded as a model for many other countries in Asia, and in some respects countries in other parts of the world too. But there has been some decline in recent decades. In terms of caste, we are still much better off than our neighbors, particularly India. But in respect of other factors, even religious discrimination, we are much better off. But in terms of ethnic rights, in terms of other human rights violations like attacks on media personnel and human rights activists, we are going down. We have gone down already, and we are still going down. I think we need to do something about it.
In Sri Lanka at the moment, the issue of human rights is really one of the most critical issues confronting our country. We're just coming out of a war in which there were grievous abuses of human rights by all armed actors, and these range from obviously killings to abductions to violations of other freedoms like of expression, of association. And therefore, at this time, we are coming out of that crisis, and it's so when you compare to say 6 months ago, we are definitely, the situation has improved, but it's not to say that the overall structural situation has been addressed, including issues of justice and of addressing issues of compensation to the victims of violations, etc.
I think it is both, because you can strengthen institutions and processes, but if you don't have a facilitating culture which gives those institutions and processes life, then you're not going to succeed. You need to have a very widespread rights awareness amongst the population, and with those rights go duties and obligations as well as citizens in a functioning democracy. In addition to that, you need the processes and institutions, the standard operating procedures, to realize them in a formal mechanism.
I don't think there will be one formula that can be applied.